There was a 16-year-old girl by the name of Amina Filali in Morocco, and she recently committed suicide because she was raped at the age of 15 about a year ago, and then she was forced to marry her rapist. She was beaten so badly by this man during their marriage that she decided that it would be better to take her own life. In fact, she went and told her mother, "He's beating me up, I can't take it anymore." And the mother told her, "All you need is a little patience."
Wow. So obviously these are stories that enrage me. You know, what kind of horrible morality is it when you say if a young girl has been raped, the only way to make it morally right is if she marries the guy? First of all, she didn't do anything wrong. Look, this whole sense of honor that exists in these old Neanderthal cultures, where they think if a woman is raped, well, then she has done something dishonorable, is the most perverse use of that word I can imagine. And then they take it out on the woman and say, okay, well, at least you can save your honor if you marry your rapist. And then shockingly enough, it turns out the rapist is a bad guy who keeps beating her. And then, surprisingly, she can't take it anymore. Look, I don't care what your culture says. As a parent, you got to have some fiber of decency in your body to say that I can't do this to my daughter. And apparently they didn't.
Yeah, what's amazing is they feel that this is decency, right? Because this is something that is written in their book, in their magic book, in the Old Testament.
This is one of the reasons why I can't stand religion, right? Because, sure, this particular interpretation of this religion is hideous, right? But it's not just that. It's the broader thing, which is that once you have said, I will listen to whatever this book tells me to do, and I will not use my own human judgment and morality, well, then you're going to do hideous things. Because you've decided to listen to a book, in this case written, thousands of years ago, that has this arbitrary morality that has no relationship to what's happening today. And so you're willing to do horribly immoral things so that you could listen to something that was written by, God knows who, like I said, thousands of years ago. And the things that are written in the books are oftentimes hideous.
They really are. Look, Cenk always talks about how he read the Bible, right? And after reading the Bible, it made you, confirm your belief in, in being an agnostic.
Right. No, it turned me into an agnostic. I used to be Muslim, right? And I read the Quran and I read the Bible. I didn't read it in its entirety, but I read large portions of the Quran and the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, etc. And I closed up the books and I thought, well, I was wrong, because once you read this, you realize this is nonsense. No logical person can actually believe these are the literal words of God. Now, we're about to prove it to you. We're going to prove it, no question, okay? If after we read you this section of the Old Testament, you still believe it is the literal word of God, you should be locked up. There's something wrong with you.
So this is from Deuteronomy 22, and it says the following when it comes to marriage violations. It says, basically, if a man rapes a female while she is in town, then they should both be executed because the man raped her, and because the woman is in town, she should have cried for help. And it's assumed that she did not cry for help and she wanted it.
So if you were raped, obviously, if you have not made up, fought back enough, you should be executed. Literal word of God. Okay, but it gets worse.
But if out in the country a man happens to meet a young woman pledged to be married and rapes her, only the man who has done this shall die. Do nothing to the woman. She has committed no sin deserving death. This case is like that of someone who attacks and murders a neighbor. For the man found the young woman out in the country, and though the betrothed woman screamed, there was no one to rescue her. If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her, and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the young woman, for he has violated her. He can never divorce her as long as he lives.
So her reward, if she happens to be non-betrothed, if she's betrothed, well, then obviously execution ensues for the rapist. That's the one case where we have some justice, right? Okay, every other case is maddening. But if she is not betrothed, she's a virgin, and she's not given to anyone for marriage yet, well, then obviously the rapist is given the punishment of marrying her for the rest of her life. Now, how about her? She's the one who got raped. Why is she being punished by being married to the rapist for the rest of her life? Who cares about the woman? It's just like the only thing that's relevant in that verse about the woman is what does her father think? Well, he's got to be given shekels, right? And he has been dishonored because he was going to do a good transaction here and a contract to sell off his daughter, but the contract got violated because some guy got horny in the country. Now, of course, if he was out in the town, then of course everybody gets executed, okay? Who believes this? Who believes this? I challenge you. If you're a Christian, you're Jewish, you're Muslim. By the way, Muslims are supposed to believe in the Old Testament and the New Testament as well. Now, it's one thing to have faith. That's a whole separate issue. But if you say to me that you're a literalist, that you believe that this is the Word of God, you're telling me that if a woman is raped in town, that, by the way, that God makes a distinction between in town and out of town. If she's raped in town and she didn't make enough noise, she should automatically be executed?
But Cenk, the important thing is this, that Jesus Christ came in the New Testament and he did away with all these hateful laws, all of them, except for the part about hating gays. He said keep those.
Okay, so let's think about that too. That's a great point. So whenever you bring up the absurdities of the Old Testament, the excuse is, oh, no, Jesus changed all that. Really? Well, Genesis is in the Old Testament. So I guess we don't have to worry about Adam and Eve because Jesus changed the whole Old Testament. It's no longer relevant, right? Oh, no, we like that part. That part is totally relevant. Well, okay, at least the hateful stuff is out, right? As to Steve's point. Well, the Old Testament is the one that says that man shall not lie with a man. It's an abomination. So that part's out. No, we like that part. That's hateful, and we like that part of the hate, right? So which one is it? Is it literal? Is it not literal? Is the Old Testament moot, or is it perfectly relevant? Or is it that you like to pick certain portions to be able to funnel your hatred towards certain people? So in our case, in the United States, our fundamentalist Christians say, well, we have to hate gays because that's in the Old Testament. So I suppose you should murder women who've been raped as well. It's in the Old Testament, right? And then you got fundamentalist Muslims who say, well, what could I do? We had to marry our daughter to her rapist because it says it in the book. It's hideous. You can't, no right-thinking person who is logical can believe this is the literal word of God. If you do, there's literally something wrong with you. You should go get yourself checked out by a therapist. And by the way, when I say this, the right-wing reaction will be, oh, see how hateful he is towards religion? But what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to say, oh, no, you're right, we should murder the virgins who were raped?
No, but that's the incredible thing. Like, I don't think those people obviously don't know what's in the Bible because...
No, they do. They do. Okay, look, they don't give a shit, okay? All they care about is whatever their agenda is. So they read the Bible and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that part doesn't make any sense. Who cares? Screw it. Let's skip over that part. What part do I like? Well, okay, then you go to the New Testament, and the New Testament says at least it's got some great parts. It says you should help the poor. It's like, fuck that. I don't like that part either. I don't want to keep my money. Oh, look at this. I found one section in here that says, well, it kind of could interpret it to mean that if you're rich, you should keep your money. That's it. That's the part of the Bible I like. Oh, look, I found another part. Oh, hating gay people. Love that part. And earlier, when they kept slaves in this country, they're like, what do you mean? It says in the book, Bible, you should have slaves. And here are all the different rules you should apply for slaves. And that's literally in the Bible. And then when we got rid of slavery, they're like, oh yeah, that part of the Bible, put that away. That's okay. They're all enormous, gigantic hypocrites. Now, there are great people who are faithful, okay? And they're lovely human beings, but they literally don't know what's in the Bible, okay? They just go to church and they hear all these lovely little things and they go, oh, okay, that's lovely. There's nothing wrong with that. You're going on about your life. You're not, it's not your job to know every word of the Bible. Or they don't literally believe it. That's Ben's theory. Nobody actually literally believes this. They're human beings. They rationalize this so they take the parts they like and they discard the parts they don't like. What drives me crazy is that in the year 2012, we have these gigantic debates in this country based on some people's interpretation of this ridiculous ancient text